the drill sergeant command in his voice. "Actually, it was the most amazing thing." She began with a nervous little giggle. Rexanne was quite possibly the most sophisticated woman he'd ever met. She never giggled. His suspicions tripled as he waited for her to go on. "I ran into this man, an old friend, actually, from high school, as a matter of fact." Now the woman who never wasted a word was babbling. Jordan's sense of dread kicked in. He stood and began to pace, phone in hand. "And?" "Well, the truth of it is, Jordan, I'm really sorry about this, but—" "Just spit it out, Rexanne." "Randall and I got married," she blurted at last, "in Vegas." Rexanne and Randall? How alliterative, he thought, with an uncharacteristic edge of sarcasm. Married? How considerate of her to give him fair warning. The same society page columnists who'd been gushing about their engagement would be gossiping about this turn of events for weeks. It was only one step short of being left at the altar. He didn't like the prospect of being the subject of speculation and innuendo. He didn't like it one damned bit. "I see," he said coldly. Not entirely sure of the protocol for the circumstances, he went with his gut reaction, which was liberally laced with more sarcasm. "Thank you so much for calling, Rexanne. Have a nice life." "Now, Jordan, please don't be like that," she whined. Why had he never noticed that she whined, he wondered. Probably because he'd given in to her every request, showered her with gifts, and never once in the months since they had announced their engagement exchanged a cross word with her. Of course, that was probably because Rexanne had tucked herself so neatly and cheerfully into his life, he'd had no reason to complain. "Darling, I know it's a shock, and I wouldn't have hurt you for the world, but this was like fate or something," she said in a more familiar, smoky, cajoling tone. "Fate," he repeated numbly. "Yes, I suppose it was." Fate had benevolently prevented him from having to listen to that whine for the rest of his days. She could ooze sensuality from now to doomsday, and he would never stop hearing that whine. It would lurk in his memory like the sound of chalk squeaking across a blackboard. "Darling, you can't let this change in our personal status interfere with the business arrangement we have," she protested. "You're too much of a businessman. You and I are going to take Marshall Cosmetics to the top, around the globe. We're going to make a fortune." Ah, now they were getting to her real concern. Not his feelings, but her future plans for Marshall Cosmetics. "Sorry, darling. I'm afraid that's going to be up to you and Randall." "But you promised," she whined. The sound of her voice was really getting on his nerves. "So did you," he reminded her icily. "Goodbye, Rexanne." He hung up before she could launch into an attempt to sugarcoat the now obvious truth, that she had wanted his money and his connections to Wall Street more than she had ever wanted him. As he sat staring out at the sweeping view of the Houston skyline, he wondered at his lack of emotion. Shouldn't he have felt more than this vague irritation that his plans for settling down had been disrupted? Shouldn't he be feeling empty inside? Shouldn't he be throwing things? He hefted a baccarat crystal paperweight consideringly, then shrugged and lowered it to his desk. She wasn't worth it. Maybe he was incapable of the kind of passion that his older brother Luke had found with Jessie. Maybe, he conceded, he'd gone about finding a wife too methodically. Or maybe the incredible judgment that had propelled him to the top of the oil industry didn't carry over into personal matters. Maybe he was doomed to make the same mistakes over and over, trusting the wrong women. It wasn't, he admitted to himself ruefully,